They say that if at first you don't succeed, try again. Well, in the summer of '69, The Big Bounce hit theaters. Spoiler alert, the author of the book hated it. Can 35 years, a decent cast of namers, and the director of Grosse Pointe Blank make a difference? Find out as we attempt to prove to you that the 2004 remake of The Big Bounce is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A grades in B movies. Now, I feel like I've said this before, but my lovely wife Carrie is a massive Elmore Leonard fan. So when we were trying to figure out which movie to cover this week, lo and behold, another Elmore Leonard adaptation has come across our table. And I know Carrie is super excited for it. So Carrie, how are you feeling today?
I am great. I am bouncing. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, you went for the dad joke. You went for the dad joke. Bad humor is my job. You're supposed to be the serious one.
Right. Oh, no. Then we're in a lot of trouble.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's opposite day. No. But yes, we are talking about 2004's The Big Bounce, based off the Elmore Leonard novel. And trust me when I say there are tons of movies and television shows based off Elmore Leonard novels. Some of them are really, really, really good. Critics have their, something up their something. We'll put it that way, because I don't feel like putting the censor button in. But before we tackle this big screen adaptation, it is time to take The Big Bounce and trailerize it. A con man, a mistress, and a real estate developer walk onto the beach in Hawaii. That's where the joke ends. Owen Wilson is Jack Ryan. No, not that Jack Ryan. Although admittedly, he might make a better Jack Ryan than Ben Affleck. In the big screen version of Elmore Leonard's The Big Bounce, watch as Jack Owen Wilson's his way through a scheme that seemingly has no plan. A supporting cast that barely supports the story, and Charlie Sheen's porno stash that is begging to be shaved off. In a film that uses every shot from every Hawaii tourist board video, it's The Big Bounce. Rated PG for please go read the book instead.
I like that. And yes, do read the book.
Yeah. It is very interesting, though, because, of course, this film is set in Hawaii, which readers of the book are going to be very, very confused, because the book takes place in Michigan, right? But
far, far from Hawaii.
But we have been to Michigan, and quite frankly, we would rather be in Hawaii. I'm sure there are people in Michigan who would rather be in Hawaii.
Well, not only that, but they also turned Jack into a surfer as opposed to a ball player.
Yeah, no, it's it's like the Coles Notes version, but there's a lot to be talked about this one.
Well, they kept the title the same anyway.
Yeah, no, just no. But let's get through here. This movie stars Owen Wilson, Morgan Freeman, Gary Sinise, Sarah Foster. Now, I was really confused about this one. Not confused, but intrigued. Because as I'm watching this and I see Sarah Foster and I'm like, who the is Sarah Foster? Because I didn't know. I really didn't. So I had to do some research. And if you're sitting there going, like, who the hell is Sarah Foster, like I was? She was in the movie Debs. She also played Jen Clark in 90210, but that was the CW version. Like the later on, right? She is the daughter of Canadian music producer David Foster, and she is also currently married to Tommy Haas, the tennis player. She was the host of E.T. on MTV, which lasted about as long, seemingly, as her film career, but that's how she got noticed and put into this movie. Also stars Charlie Sheen and Vinnie Jones. However, there is an almost starring in this one. Jeremy Renner Hawkeye was offered a role in the film, but opted to do SWAT, which shows that is why Hawkeye is the greatest Avenger. It does not say on IMDb which role he was offered. I can only assume. Actually, I'd be curious. If you had to put Jeremy Renner in this film, what role would you put him in?
Probably either, I think, the role played by Gary Sinise.
Oh, Ray Ritchie.
Ray Ritchie, yeah.
I could see him, though, as Bob Jr., as played by Charlie Sheen.
Oh, I was hoping you wouldn't say that.
Hawkeye. This film was directed by George Armitage. It is the last film he would ever direct or produce. I'm sure this movie had a lot to do with that. This film originally had an NC-17 rating. And then, of course, they brought it down to an R rating. But then the studio likes money. So they apparently stepped in and said, no. We got to make this a PG-13 film. George Armitage apparently got so ticked off at this that he walked out of the editing process. And apparently, to this day, he has never seen the theatrical cut.
Oh, I'm guessing he did.
I don't know.
He probably rented it from a Blockbuster somewhere in the middle of the States.
I'm actually, he may be the kind of person that would I don't know. We don't know George Armitage, but if I was so pissed off at a film that I was involved in and walked off, I would probably skip by it at the Blockbuster shelf.
Well, he didn't Alan Smithy it.
No, but I don't think he could, though. There's a thing with the Alan Smithy rule that if it's known to the public that you are the director of a film, then you can't really Alan Smithy it because that's just a black flag on the film because everyone knows you were involved. You can't Alan Smithy a film if everyone knows that you're involved. Like, you could Alan Smithy a film back in the day. Now everybody knows everything about who's working on what films. So I think it'd be almost impossible to Alan Smithy something unless it was like a small indie production. I don't know. I'd be curious to.
I want to check his rental history at Blockbuster, though. I'm thinking, you know what? Out of sheer curiosity, at some point he had to have watched it, even if it was accidentally on one weekend on Movie Network or Movie Time or whatever.
Now it's funny because as we were watching this, I was like. It's kind of in the same vein, at least tonality-wise, as Be Cool was, even though I think Be Cool, if I remember correctly, had an R rating. But this came out the year before Be Cool came out. It was also the same year as the Maximum Bob TV series that was out there that starred Beau Bridges. Now, how did Elmore Leonard like this film? Let me tell you, he did not. Spoiler alert, he did not. He said in an interview with the LA Times that the 1969 version of The Big Bounce is the second worst movie ever made. The 2004 remake is the worst.
Wow.
That is Elmore Leonard talking trash about a movie based on a book that he wrote.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't think he got to like Clive Cussler level kind of things where he was like actively telling people not to go see the movie. But clearly he did not like this one. It was also given a dishonorable mention for worst film at the 2004 Bad Movie Awards. Now, when the author of the book that the movie is based on doesn't like it and is calling it the worst film in history, that's probably going to affect the box office take. This film had a budget of $50 million according to IMDb, a worldwide gross of under $6.8 million when it debuted in the deadest time of movie history, January 30th, 2004. Well, not of history, but definitely of the calendar year. There were 3 films debuting that week. This one placed at number 13 on the box office charts, and you can't even argue that it was a small release because it was released in over 2,300 screens. Number 1 that week was the debut of You Got Served, so that just tells you exactly how, no one went to the theaters that week. The other one was The Perfect Score, that debuted at number 5. The Big Bounce, 3.3 million roughly, debuting at number 13. That That ain't good. That ain't good at all. And to give you a comparison, the 1969 version over on Rotten Tomatoes has an audience score of 31%. This one, however, over on Metacritic, it has a Metascore of 43. But over on Rotten Tomatoes, it has an audience score of 24% and a tomatometer of 15.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That is less than half.
Yeah, that's
the 69 version.
That is not good. So when you hear a 15% critic score on this, as an Elmore Leonard fan, like, how much of your entrails are now spilled out from the wound that they've slashed?
It hurts. I'm not gonna lie. It hurts. Yeah. And the thing is, it had such a great cast. It's a great story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a really great story. I can only attribute the screenplay, the direction, the liberties they took with it. I mean, to be honest, they didn't stick to the story. They didn't stick to the original novel.
Mm-hmm.
And again, really talented actors. I mean, we're talking about this because our target was Morgan Freeman. We wanted to do another Morgan Freeman movie.
Yeah, we pulled Morgan Freeman's name out of the hat again.
So incredible talent, really funny actors.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand where it went wrong, because it did. It went so wrong.
I mean, there's a couple things here. There is probably perhaps almost an unrealistic expectation when you have a quality cast, and this does, right? 2004, Owen Wilson, Morgan Freeman, Charlie Sheen, Gary Sinise. That's a solid cast. Solid. So there's a weight of expectation. People will expect those people to be in good movies, because why would the voice of God take a movie that, is, maybe not the best script? But to the same token as well, there are fans of the written word. And when the book that they love makes it to the big screen, and it is nothing like the book that they love, that's a massive thing. And we talked about this with The Circle, right? Like, when we did the episode of The Circle, we're like, oh, this is a really, really good film. And we had not read the book by that point. And then I read the book. And it's a vastly different tonality to Emma Watson's character. May is not a good person. By the way, I go into great detail on that on the Adapted to Screen podcast. So go have a good listen to that one and support our good friends over there. But you're the Elmore Leonard fan here. Yeah.
And what I wanted to add to that is I really think that the rating to bring it down to a PG-13, any Elmore Leonard book, almost kind of needs that grit. It needs the language, and it needs the kind of seedy characters. And I think maybe that's what was lost in translation, was the tone of it. The fact that the actors made it more of a comedy than the true story, the true novelization needed to be, or was meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, there are some very, very good Elmore Leonard books adapted into movies. Like, off the top of my head, Kill Shot is very good. 52 Pickup is very good. And I think those kind of match the tonality potentially of, because I'll admit, I have not read those books, but they feel, from what you have told me of the books, how it should feel, right?
I am still waiting on the movie of Tishomingo Blues.
Yeah, whatever happened to that one?
Please manifest that. Make it so.
Mm-hmm. Because if I remember correctly, George Clooney at one point was working on that, but it's,
I wonder how much of that had to do with Elmore's passing away. But again, I mean, in the time that the novel was released, which now I'm thinking back was like early 2000s, maybe.
Yeah, it had to be the early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember the date exactly. However, I mean, enough time has passed that it needs to happen.
Yeah. Get her done.
Dear Mr. Clooney, please exchange your ticket for paradise and make this happen.
Now, we're not saying anything bad about Ticket to Paradise.
Oh, yes. No, I actually want to go see it. However,
Come on, Clooney. Throw that Hollywood muscle around.
Yes.
Make it no more Leonard film.
Make it so.
Again.
Please.
But let's get to the breakdown of this one here. And we got to start with Jack Ryan. By the way, as someone who has read a lot of Tom Clancy books, seeing Owen Wilson as a character named Jack Ryan, this is why the joke in the trailer eyes. Owen Wilson would not make a good Tom Clancy Jack Ryan. But that being said, how was he as an Elmore Leonard version of Jack Ryan?
Again, reading the books, you have a far different picture than Owen Wilson. Like, no disrespect to Owen Wilson. I think he is funny and, a talented actor. Was thrilled to see him in his role in Loki. Mm-hmm. I love that.
As Mobius K. Mobius.
Right? However, he does not fit the picture of Jack Ryan as I'm reading the novel.
No.
And it's no disrespect. It's just, again, when you read the books, it's very different tonality. It's very dry wit as opposed to humor.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all in the difference in genre.
Is it weird that I can actually see Owen Wilson as a Michigan-based baseball player as opposed to a Hawaiian surfer, and it might actually fit better?
You know what? And there's the thing, right? Like, they took so many liberties with the scene setting, with like everything, right? Mm-hmm. And I think, Elmore Leonard wrote his books almost with that backdrop in mind, mm-hmm. right? The kind of gritty Michigan, seedy, not seedy characters,
it's
like
that Detroit vibe, yeah.
Yeah, and then you put Owen Wilson, who is just a funny guy. Mm-hmm. His look, his smile, his presence is humor.
Yeah.
And just really doesn't kind of fit the picture. Maybe, perhaps, if they did put a Jeremy Renner?
Yeah, Jeremy Renner, yeah.
Or a Gary Sinise into the role of Jack Ryan.
Gary Sinise probably would have fit that role better, in all honesty, when you realize what the role actually was.
Yes.
And you know what? You can move it to Hawaii. That's fine. But you kind of have to keep the tonality. And the other thing, too, is like, as you're reading like the material and the promo material, it's like, Jack Ryan is a con man. Really? Because everything in here basically says that he's a B&E guy. And that's about it. Like, he's looking for a quick couple of hundreds on, wallets that he's picked up. But like, he can talk his way into and out of a house, but nothing here says that he's a con guy by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Yes and no. Like, the way the character was written, you kind of need a certain amount of suave to be able to, pull off the character. Mm-hmm. And I think that was fine enough. It's just, again, persona-wise, an Owen Wilson is maybe just not what I would have pictured reading it.
Yeah. This is a hindsight thing that may be a recast or at least a shuffling of the deck, with different actors from the same movie in a different role might have served it better. The other thing too is 2004, right? This is like the Owen Wilson year. This was the first of 5 films that came out with him in it in 2004. There was this, Starsky and Hutch, Around the World in 80 Days, which, co-starred Jackie Chan, Meet the Fockers, and The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. And I know you're just shaking your head.
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, of the 5 films that he's in, released in 2004, this is the one that has the lowest critic score of all 5. And a lot of that probably has to do with the major deviation from the source material. Like, the fact that this came out first, you can't even argue like Owen Wilson fatigue syndrome. You can't. Maybe as you get to the end of the year, sure, yeah, okay, no problem, right? But, this is the beginning of a very long Owen Wilson year.
Right, and I don't fault Owen Wilson at all. I think it was a casting error.
That being said, if you take the way he played Jack, but set the movie in Michigan, it wouldn't fit. I think his character, the way he portrayed Jack, fit for Hawaii, but it doesn't fit Michigan Jack.
And again, it's because I see Owen Wilson and I automatically think Hawaiian surfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so yeah, that part made sense. But again, I really think that was that was a casting thing. That was direction. That was like, they completely changed the screenplay in that direction. And I really think that's the fault.
I think it would be a better film if you move it to Michigan and make it Luke Wilson instead of Owen Wilson. I could see that. You're thinking about it now, aren't you?
Yes and no. I still want to see Jeremy Renner. As the ultimate baddie, but like the suave baddie.
But the thing is, Jeremy Renner could easily pull off the con man in this situation, regardless of what state he's in.
Yeah, but again, the grid of Michigan would make sense.
Oh, absolutely. Jeremy Renner would fit Michigan better than Hawaii. Owen Wilson fit Hawaii better, but maybe the story, took a little bit away from it. Mm-hmm. Which, of course, leads us to Sarah Foster, as played by Nancy Hayes. Now, I could not picture Nancy walking around downtown Michigan in a yellow bikini. So how was Sarah Foster for you in this?
I think she was great. In the role and how it was written, mm-hmm. I do. I think she was perfect. She was fun and carefree. And it really fit like the true character of Nancy as far as I saw it. So she was great.
See, it's interesting that you say she's fun and carefree, right? Here's a girl that is using, I'm going to use my imaginary audio air finger quotes here, a con man to help her steal $200,000 from her real estate developer husband. Carefree and fun for someone who's trying to pull off a $500,000 heist. This is where the tonality of the movie, I think, needed to be an R rating, right? It felt like the movie was focusing too much on the potential romance between Nancy and Jack, as opposed to Nancy's using a con man in order to steal the money. Tonality-wise, it didn't fit.
Well, you know what? When I say fun and carefree, I guess what I mean about that is that you honestly, it's almost kind of like she is just having so much fun with this. Mm-hmm. She's having fun stringing Jack along. 1 minute, she's just crazy. 1 minute she can be really into him, and then the other minute you think she's going to kill him. She's mm-hmm. going to put a pillow over his face when he's asleep. Like, this is it. She's nuts, and it was fun, and it was carefree in that.
It's carefree in a way that, she is using literally everyone in this film, right? There isn't a single person who isn't in on the scheme, maybe except for Jack.
Right, but when I say carefree, I guess I mean absolutely no remorse.
Zero given by Nancy.
If you want to put it that way, yes.
But I mean, I think this is a problem with the focus of the film. It felt too much like they were focusing, and again, this is not on Owen Wilson. This is not on Sarah Foster, right? It felt like a meet cute film centered around a heist, as opposed to a heist film that Nancy is trying to make it feel like a meet cute situation so she can basically get everyone to do what she wants them to do. Like, she's the center of this. And I think for her part, she'd actually played it very, very well. I just wish the story developed the plan more than it focused on, Nancy and Jack. And kind of a will they, won't they make it past this heist kind of thing.
And that is an excellent point. There was a lot left out of the dialogue, of the plot. Like, a lot of the plot had holes. And again, I don't fault the actors at all. I think they played their role beautifully. However, again, it comes back to the screen adaptation of the novel. Mm-hmm. A lot was missing. And I mean, there were times, even though I had read the book years previous, but still I read the book and I was like, wait, like, what is happening here? And then it makes sense. It all comes together in the end.
Yeah.
However, there were times even I, as a fan, was left kind of thinking, well, this is an interesting direction,
right?
Or like, how did we get here?
Okay. So,
here we are.
I mean, it's 2022, so we're going to spoil the crap out of this 18-year-old film. So you've been warned.
But do watch it.
Do watch it. It is definitely worth it. And I think, and before we move on with the rest of the characters and all that, I will say that if you don't know the source material, this is a fun film. Mm-hmm. If you know the source material and the type of books written by Elmore Leonard, you're watching this film going,
Well, I can say, fans, that read this and then pick up Unknown Man 89, because Jack Ryan as a character does make a reappearance in that novel. So,
see, I would be more, I think it would be better if people didn't read the books in this case, or read it the other way. Watch the film and then read the book, right? Because when you read the book before you watch the movie, you have these expectations, and if they're not met, you're like, oh. And then if you watch the movie first, then you read the book, it's a much different, way of going about it, kind of thing. But I do wish they had given more to Nancy in order to develop how she was using everyone, because she's with Ray, she's the mistress, right? And she's stringing Bob along, Bob Jr., and she's using Jack to steal the money, and eventually Morgan Freeman is somehow involved, kind of thing. Like, it's anyone who complains about Zemo's plot in Civil War, watch this, and all of a sudden you're like, Helmut Zemo was the greatest mastermind ever. Right? You need a much bigger flowchart with way more red string in order to wrap your head around this. But I wonder how much of that was lost in the cut down from NC. I get cutting down from NC-17 to R. That makes sense, right? You're not getting a wide release if you're NC-17. You're in Showgirls territory at that point. But when you cut a film from R down to PG-13, you are losing a lot in tonality and probably a lot of plot. And we've talked about this before. There have been so many movies that we've talked about already in the short span of time, that we've been doing this podcast. I mean, this is episode 55, and already I can think of a few movies off the top of my head that went from R to PG-13 and probably suffered in the long run because of it, but it did make it more accessible to people in the theaters. It backfired in this one, I think, because if you debut at number 13, you missed. Like, you missed the boat on that. Snickers bar. Anyways, moving on to the porno stash that is Charlie Sheen as Bob Jr. in this. I'm not going to lie. Like, we were talking about Jeremy Renner coming in, and I said maybe he'd fit this role pretty well. But I can't picture Charlie Sheen not in this role. But how was he for you?
No, I thought he was great. I don't know. I mean, I almost kind of could have, I don't know, could have done with less of him, to be honest. And it's not that he didn't play it well, but I think it was just like, there were some scenes where I'm like, they could have cut that.
Yeah.
Although it was also a very short movie, so.
I get why she's using him or stringing him along for whatever reason, right? But the thing is, in the grand scheme of the plot, it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. It's like, why are you here? Exactly.
Pretty much, right? Like, all of a sudden, Bob Jr. shows up to the house and, looking for a quickie kind of thing while she's, got Jack upstairs all tied up and whatnot. Like, I'm like, why is he here? Yeah. This whole thing about his wife, who I don't even remember actually seeing his wife in this film. Like, what is going on, right? Like, I get that he is Ray's, for lack of a better term, he's his henchman, right? He's, Ray's little puppy dog that he sends out to do a bunch of things, right?
But the fight scene was hilarious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I get it. But it's...
If anything, that was just the comic relief on this movie.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that porno stash alone is comic relief to begin with. But it felt like I hate to say it felt like a waste of a perfectly good Charlie Sheen.
He literally felt like the pool boy. Like when he showed up to the house, it was like, okay, at what point is he going to mow the lawn or
but
clean the pool?
But not even a suave pool boy.
Yeah.
Like, he may as well have been standing outside the backyard door going, Nancy, I'm horny. Come here, Nancy. I got 15 minutes. It's only going to take 2. Like, really? Why? And again, we don't know how much of it actually got lost in the cut down. I would love to see a director's cut of this film. How it was supposed to be. Mm-hmm. Like,
right. And there's the thing we had spoke about at the beginning is like, that's why I think the director refuses to watch it because there should have been so much more. Yeah.
And the thing too is at PG-13 and completely siding with George Armitage here, that's not his film. Right? I'm sure
that's not the book either.
No, I'm sure he was fine with the cut down from NC-17 to R, right? You have to be able to release in theaters. You have to be able to let people in without that hardcore NC-17, because let's be honest, NC-17, it basically screams this is softcore porn. Right? That's the kind of feel when you see an NC-17 film, or it's, worse than Terrifier 2. Right? You needed to get it down to R in order to be able to make more money at the box office. And had it stayed R, I think this would have been a much better film. I'm not saying I don't think we'll ever see a director's cut. I don't think there's, we're not getting #release the Armitage cut. Although maybe we should. But regardless,
like that. Let's try.
#release the Armitage cut of The Big Bounce. Maybe, who knows, right? But yeah, there's probably a lot more. Like, let's take a look at some of the Elmore Leonard films that have been released, right? At least movies based on his books. Jackie Brown, R rating, as I recall, right? Out of Sight. It might have been R.
Get Shorty. Was that sitting at R? Or?
Pretty sure that was R.
Yeah.
Be Cool was rated R. And as much as it was, very funny, pretty sure that was rated R.
It wasn't horribly violent, though.
No, but there's a lot of swear words.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but the MPAA, that they don't like swear words. You can rip out someone's intestines, but you say poop duty too many times and you're going to get the R rating. I think there's a rule like from PG to PG-13. I think there's like a one rule or something like that. You can say one time and that's your limit. Anything more, you get like the PG-13 or maybe like the R rating. Is it
just one? I know there's a count, but I didn't know.
There's a count, but I think more than one is the, A, that's Sunday. But B, that's kind of like the line, right? That one word. Drop a and you're really screwed. Moving on, let's talk about Ray Ritchie, Gary Sinise.
Ooh, hang on. Which, on that note, if you had replaced Morgan Freeman with Sam Jackson.
Yes, but I think the character. Well, let's talk about Morgan Freeman before we go to Gary Sinise, right? Let's talk about Morgan Freeman as Walter Cruz, right? Walter is a very sly but suave kind of guy, right? He's non-imposing. The fact that he's in on the whole thing is a big twist at the end, which I love the twist. I really do. The fact that he's in on it, it makes sense why he offered Jack a job. It's just, he needed to be non-imposing. He needed to feel like that kind, gentle guy. You don't need Samuel L. Jackson in there dropping a bunch of MFs all over the place, because then you're like, oh no, he's totally involved. Morgan Freeman felt like he wasn't involved, so the twist actually worked better, I think. But that being said, did it not feel like his entire description was be nice, but be cryptic as hell with everything you say to Jack?
I wonder how much of that is just Morgan Freeman being an amazing actor.
Oh, I mean, he's great. Don't get me wrong, right? But it just felt like the script tried to be too cryptic to make Walter seem not everything as meant it to be. I'd rather it just be like,
I don't know, maybe it was me. I saw it coming like as soon as he was introduced on the screen. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, because they're looking at him like he's some kind of specimen.
He's so in on this.
Him and Willie Nelson, which for the record, holy crap, Willie Nelson is in this film, right? Like, it's not a small part, but you sit there and all of a sudden you see him, like, holy crap, it's Willie Nelson. Nice to see Willie Nelson in a film. But yeah, no. Morgan Freeman was perfect in this. The twist worked because it was Morgan Freeman. I don't think you want to put a Samuel L. Jackson in this. Plus, you'd probably draw too many comparisons to Jackie Brown anyways. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. True.
Given the source material, given that Jackie Brown was, first, right? Like it's...
I think I just wanted to see more out of Morgan Freeman. Like a little more unhinged at the end. A little more... again, he was very understated.
Yeah, but he needed to be. Because that way, when it turns out that Walter's involved, you're like, where did he come from? Oh, it makes sense. This is the one part where I'm like, no. Walter, I think, was written well, even despite the fact that the dialogue was a little too, don't trust me, wink, wink.
I think I wanted to see a little more Shawshank Redemption.
Really? No.
In the end.
At least you didn't say Bruce Almighty. It's bad enough of you. More God in this.
But he's just an imaginary friend for humans.
Which I love that line.
For adults, sorry.
For adults. But moving on to Gary Sinise, who surprisingly is still Gary Sinise as Ray Ritchie here.
Is there any other way?
There is no other way to Gary Sinise but the Gary Sinise way. But I will say though that it worked perfectly because he was the perfect level of asshole for this role. The fact that he was so dismissive of everyone around him, that made sense as to why Nancy wanted to steal the money from him. It became more of a, you're going to play me and use me as just a plaything. I'm going to take your money and you're never going to see it coming. and you're going to pay. I just wish they had made him more of an asshole. But to do that, we needed to see more Ray. It felt like this, here he is, and then he's going to go away for about an hour, and then he's going to show up only to get killed. We need to see the object of the heist to make us believe in the heist. And that's where I think the focus of the film lacked.
But I think the fact that he wasn't present was maybe like a key point to that, is that he was never there, right? Like, so
it felt
the
like
fact that this is happening behind his back is just kind of, I don't know, poignant, because he's never there.
Yeah. It just felt like the planning of the plot, the scheming, the chess playing of Nancy is lost in the, you're going to do this because I'm hot, right? And the two of them, right? Sarah and Owen are fantastic together. I think they played off each other very well. But it made it feel like a romantic comedy as opposed to a heist film. Like,
that's it. That's exactly it. It was a rom-com. It was made to be in that genre as opposed to, again, the grittiness that it needed.
Yeah.
For it to be true to the story.
Which, for the record, you might want to get your Snickers bar ready, because I'm about to go on a rant here. After watching the film and doing up my notes and whatnot, I decided to watch the trailer. Because there were some scenes that were in the trailer that were not in the film, but this is not new. We've met Rogue One. This is not new. But in watching the trailer and how much they put into that trailer, you did not need to watch the movie. You knew exactly what was going to happen, how it was going to go down. Like, I get that the trailers have come a long, long way. And trailers that were on DVDs, like in the early 2000s, did tend to show a lot of the movie. Trailer editors have learned a lot in the time. But watching this trailer, I'm like, okay, I've seen the movie. I didn't need it. Did not need to see anything after the trailer. I get this. It's bad marketing. Maybe that led to the low box office. It really was one of those trailers that showed you everything you needed to see. And there was nothing in here outside of that, that was not in the trailer. There was a surprise. It was predictable. It was formulaic. I didn't need to read the book. 2-minute trailer, and I know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to go down.
And I think that's exactly the problem that the critics had with this movie, is the predictability. Yeah.
It's like those movies where all the best parts are in the trailer. And you watch the movie, I'm like, this was better in a 2-minute format. Looking at you, the hitman's bodyguard. Oh, I went there, didn't I? I said bad things about a Ryan Reynolds film. I'm going to get kicked out of Canada.
Ooh, I want to add red notice to that one.
Really, huh?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet. And it, if I remember correctly, not the audience score, but the critic score. It qualifies that movie.
I can see that. I'm sure it's a contender.
No, we'll have to put red notice on the list.
I gave it 2 spins because I thought the first one, maybe I just didn't, maybe it was me. No, sorry, Ryan Reynolds.
Deadpool,
Rock.
Wonder Woman, and Black Adam walk into a heist film.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, it's not me, it's you.
Are we gonna put red notice on notice?
Could be.
Could quite be.
Stay tuned.
Interesting character here. Frank Pizarro is played by Gregor Sporletter. And again, I do apologize if I messed up the names, but me, idiot, basement microphone. This is an interesting character. This is Jack's friend that constantly owes money to Vinnie Jones. Tries to frame him with the box of wallets and whatnot. This is an interesting character, but how was Frank for you?
I mean, he was good. Like, I didn't see anything wrong in the delivery of the character. I mean, aside from the obvious, tone of the movie, yeah, like I just have to question their friendship. Like I have to question what is the glue that binds?
The funny thing is, I don't think there is glue that binds them. And there's this whole thing where Jack's like, I like the way our thing works because, we work together well, but just know that, if ever there's a thing where I need to turn on you, I'm going to turn on you. Frank's relationship with Jack makes sense because it defines Jack more. Frank was the one character that made Jack feel like the criminal con man that he is, because that is the level of quote unquote friendship that he's dealing with. Frank defines Jack more than anything else in this movie.
I would have thought it was the relationship with Nancy.
No.
No, I mean, hear me out. It's almost kind of like, again, those are the relationships that Jack Ryan has in his life. Are the, intermittent, one moment you can trust them with your life and the next you're concerned for your own life.
Mm-hmm. But that's the thing. Frank's existence in this film makes you question Jack's morality and everything, which is good. Like, again, this is a heist film based on an Elmore Leonard novel. Don't trust anybody.
Mm-hmm. And again, it would have come across a lot differently if it wasn't Owen Wilson, right? Like you kind of picture Owen Wilson being like everybody's best friend, or just, smiling through any, I don't know, uncomfortable or ugly interaction, right? Yeah. Like he is just, and again, it's not on him. It's his personality that is so positive and cheerful. But he did not fit the grit that Jack Ryan needed as a character.
I will say this, though, getting back to Owen Wilson. We are talking a film that was released 18 years ago. So you have to think, movies back then. So probably 19 years ago filming this thing, right? I don't think Owen Wilson was at the place in his career where he could add that level of fun grit, because there is a level of fun grit. Jeremy Renner would have nailed it, right? But I think watching him in Loki, and I'm glad you brought up Mobius K. Mobius, Mobin time. But I think where Owen Wilson is at now, a little bit weary, not weary, but, weathered, if you will, a bit more mature, but yet still fun. If you take the way he played Mobius and put that into Jack, it works. Because,
good point.
Let's be honest, Owen Wilson doesn't age. He doesn't. You have to actually age him with hair dye and a bad, mustache. Right?
Oh, that would have been the key, is the bad mustache.
Which still was a better mustache than what Charlie Sheen had in this film. But you take the Mobius version of Owen Wilson and put him in this, and he fits perfectly. That Jack is believable. Surfer Owen Wilson, about to star in Starsky and Hutch, not so much. But that's just me. I mentioned that holy crap, Willie Nelson was in this. But holy crap, Bebe Neuwirth is also in this as Ray Ritchie's wife, Allison. And if you don't know who Bebe Neuwirth is, go watch an episode of Cheers, because she is Dr. Lilith Sternin Crane. And I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, there's the wife and all that. And she starts to talk. I'm like, holy crap, it's Bebe Neuwirth. But she's barely in this. And she's critical to the plot, to the heist. Again, I don't mind that she doesn't show up until later on. And I like the fact that she's involved, but it kind of came out of left field.
And yes, I think, a mention or a phone call or something along the way would have helped. You had mentioned that Gary Sinise's character just disappeared for half of the movie. But if in that time there was some mention or some appearance, or at least you flash over to her and her storyline, or motive or something.
Yeah. Like maybe when Nancy and Jack were on the boat named the Allison, right? If there was a picture of Baby Newirth on there and, Nancy had a bit more knowledge than you would think that a mistress would have about, the husband, that she's stupping, right? I mean, I thought Baby Newirth was great in this. Drunk Baby Newirth is so much fun, but the fact that she was with Walter, Walter being involved out of left field, Walter being involved with Allison, even way more out of left field, right? So there's a lot of things happening, and it felt like.
But maybe that was by design. Maybe it was meant to come across at the ending to, pick your jaw up off the floor. Maybe that was the intention, and they didn't want to add too many spoilers. I think
I'm not saying spoilers, but when something happens, it should make sense.
A link, yeah, and I think that there's, I think there was maybe more, too much intention of being mysterious or having that surprise twist ending.
Yeah.
And they kind of missed the message along the way. It's like.
I felt like Jen Walters in this, though, where everything's going on. And I felt like, someone should look at the camera and go, is this really working? Like someone needed to bust out of the Disney Plus, menu screen and go talk to KEVIN and work a new ending in here. I'm just saying. The other thing, too, is I don't know if it was meant to be a red herring or something like that, but it ended up being something in the end. And again, I'm going to apologize because I'm probably about to mess up a name. Anat Minassian. And again, I probably just completely butchered that. I'm not even going to sit here and spell it because we don't have that kind of time. But she was the girl in cabin number 9. And, there was so much made about her, like, go fix the shower head in number 9 and go help the girl in number 9. And, even Jack's like, you keep on telling me to go to the girl in number 9. And Walter's like, I thought there was a thing, but she's Catholic or something like that. And then she ends up in the limo with Jack at the end. By the way, I did mention spoilers, so you were warned. It just felt very odd. Like it was a fun little ending. The fact that he ended up with the girl in cabin number 9, right? But it felt like there should have been more of her in this instead of cute girl in cabin number 9. And then all of a sudden she's cute girl in the limo. Like, was there more? Was it in the cut? I don't know.
And again, I wonder how much of that was left on the edit room floor.
Yeah.
And maybe these were the scenes that brought it from an R rating
to the PG-13.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, even down from NC-17 as well, right? Like, I'm sure there was probably a bit more sex and a lot more swear words.
There had to have been a certain, request or call to cabin number 9 that was
probably,
was cut. And yeah, I mean, maybe that was just overlooked.
I mean, nothing in this film screams that it was even close to NC-17. I understand it being an R film and things being cut out kind of thing, but Elmore Leonard movies should not be PG-13. Even ones that are made as TV shows that went to network television, and I'm thinking about Karen Sisco here, there was still, a level of grit to it. And that one was well cast. I mean, Carla Gugino was just, an absolute gem. And that show was good. Like, it was good. This, you're right.
Never made it past season 2.
One season.
Yeah.
One season. And it was a good show. I just don't know why it wasn't picked up again. Who knows? It's probably one of those things where, because it was based on Out of Sight and the continuation of Karen Sisco's character that was played by Jennifer Lopez. But then all of a sudden you go from Jennifer Lopez to Carla Gugino back then, and people were like, well, where's my J-Lo? right? Which is a shame because Carla Gugino is a much better actress, but I digress. This film, and we have said it a couple times already, it feels like a rom-com. So I'm going to put this out there to you. If you're watching this as a rom-com, are you satisfied? Forget the book. Forget the deviation from the source material. If you're looking for a rom-com, is this satisfying to you?
I mean, aside from the obvious plot holes that we've pointed out, which, I mean, they could have quite easily rewritten and, you know, even alluded to certain relationships. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, I know that we're here to say it's not that bad. And I'm going to stand behind that.
It's not a 15%.
Because it's not a 15%. It is not that bad. It is certainly not the author's vision for this story.
It's his vision of the worst film ever made. That's what this is. But it's not. I mean, I think what it boils down to is this. It is not funny enough to be a rom-com, and it's too cutesy enough to be a heist film. It's somewhere in the middle.
I wonder though if it would have been made into a series as opposed to a movie.
I think this story fits well enough in a 90-minute package if you focus on the heist and not on Jack and Nancy as potentially a couple. Because as I'm watching this, and again, I'll admit I didn't read the book. Probably saved me, right? But it felt like the kind of movie where you expect, it's a relationship out of convenience for Nancy, but Jack may very well be, even though he's not really a good person, Jack may be the one to get her out of a bad situation, and maybe Nancy is the girl that Jack needs to turn his life around from doing these cheap little B&E jobs. All they need is one job, and they can go and start over.
It's interesting that you say that Jack Ryan's not a good person, but he's not necessarily...
He's not a bad person.
He is not, exactly. He's not a hardened criminal.
He's not that bad.
He's not that bad. He is kind of like... He's more like boyishly troublemaker.
Yeah.
He's the guy that gets caught for shoplifting a pack of gum as opposed to, murder, right? Like
yeah.
he is not a hardened criminal.
No, he's not. No. Focus on Jack and Nancy using this as a way to turn their own lives around. And it's actually a very interesting film. Don't get too caught up in the heist because there's a lot of plot holes. Don't get too caught up on the comedy of it because it's not laugh out loud funny. That's the thing. Be Cool is laugh out loud funny.
Yeah. And I mean, even the heist too. I think that there's a lot that they could have done with that to almost kind of make Nancy look not justified, but, like maybe not so bad. Yeah. After all, just kind of like taking what she felt was hers or what she was entitled to.
Yeah. You have a bunch of not too bad people doing something that's really, in the grand scheme of things, not that bad.
Not great.
Not great, but it
not
could be
legal.
Not legal, but it could be way worse, right? The bad guy, the worst person in this film got his comeuppance, which, as a moviegoer, you feel almost satisfied when they do. Gary Sinise needed to be put down. I never thought I'd say that in a podcast, but here we are. But I think it could have been better had they focused more on what needed to be focused on. It's not a 15% film. I would say it's even better than a 24% film, probably around the 31% audience score that the 1969 version gets, but just don't read the book if you're going to watch the movie. or forget that the book exists, and I think you'll enjoy the film a little bit more. That's personal opinion. But how would you advise someone to watch this?
Definitely watch it. And you know what? Watch the 2004 and then just for fun, find the 1969 version.
Which stars Ryan O'Neal, by the way.
And watch that in comparison and then read the book. But definitely do read the book, but do so at the end.
I wonder if it's one of those things where if you watch the 2004 and then you watch the 1969, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle is probably the film that Elmore Leonard probably wanted. I'd be curious.
What was the rating on the 1969 version?
A 31% audience score with no tomatometer listed.
No, like
I don't know. I don't know if it's an R-rated or it's a PG-13 or whatever. You have to think 1969 is probably PG-13, but
I can definitely imagine though that it wouldn't have had the same comedic tonality.
Oh, definitely not.
The 2004 and two, the actors and like we've said that there was a certain
there's a gravitas to this cast in 2004 that probably didn't have the material to live up to that expectation. But it is time. We've come to the end of the show. So Carrie, who is your MVP of The Big Bounce? I
gotta say Jack Ryan.
Really?
Owen Wilson, yeah.
Why?
Because I like him so darn much. He's just so likable. Like he is. He made, again, the character of Jack Ryan, he made him likable. You know, he's not a super bad guy. You know, he's not the kind of guy that you think, wow, he's going to wind up in prison. He's really just a guy that his career, didn't quite pan out. His life didn't quite pan out the way he wanted it to. And so in being a bit lost and displaced by, his dreams not coming to fulfillment, he turns to a life of petty crime. He's not a hardened criminal and he is likable. So I'm going to go and give him the MVP.
All right. Well, I'm going to sit here and completely disagree with you.
Okay.
Because I don't think this is Jack's movie. This is Nancy's movie. And that being said, my MVP is Sarah Foster. It is surprising that she's actually has not been in that much since this film. I think she was actually a really good actress for the role. And she does carry a lot of this film. Like, she is the mastermind behind this plot. She is in the majority of the film. And, say what you will about the marketing of this film being almost seemingly centered around her in a yellow bikini, which it kind of felt like it. But there's a lot more to Nancy here, and I think that's a good thing thanks to Sarah Foster. Like, I think if this movie focused on her and it was her story or her lead, then I think the plot would make more sense. And then the turn at the end where Jack takes the money instead of her, then that's the twist, right? The guy that she was using ended up being the one using her all along. That makes more sense to me, but I didn't write the book. I'm not Elmore Leonard. But who did you like in this film? Let us know at Not That Badcast. Carrie, thank you so much for watching yet another Elmore Leonard movie with me. And to you, our listeners, thank you for listening to us talk about another Elmore Leonard movie. Now, you guys know the drill. If there is a movie out there that you think is unfairly maligned or you think is so bad that there is nothing good we can say about it, hit us up on Twitter at Not That Badcast, or you can find us on Facebook now, facebook.com/Not That Badcast. Let us know what movie you want us to talk about. We will watch it, we will dissect it, and we will find the good things to say because we are looking for those A grades in B movies. Until next time, she's Carrie, I'm Jay. You're awesome for listening. This is It's Not That Bad. Take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.